You ever been walking through the Navy Exchange and wonder why all the Naval Pride and Heritage gear is horrifically ugly and you wouldn't actually wear it? Have you ever wanted some really cool gear and you just don't know where to go? Well, I got you, fam. Go to dgutspodcast.com immediately. Get yourself some Naval Pride and Heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. We're working on new designs all the time, open to ideas. We're trying to create a brand that lets you display that pride but doesn't make you cringe. Also, if you're willing to and you're able to, please go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast, pick one of the 5 tiers and become a patron today. What's up, everybody? Let's spin some yarn. It's memo season. Memo season has returned. I low-key thought about overlay. I might do it for a social media clip about overlaying like that beat from that song. I think it's like I don't know. It's like a earlier mid 2000s rap song where it's like. Anyway, Damo did it, and I thought it was hilarious on when I was a guest on their podcast, on the PTSF podcast. But anyway, it's not really the point. That's not why we're here. These fucking memos, man, they're like cockroaches. They're back. The MCPON's back with more memos. I guess he, like wanted to give me more fodder. I've been thinking about this for a few days. I seen it. Somebody sent it to me on like Friday, and it's like, do they never learn? Like, really? We're doing this again? Fuck. But also just like the worst. I'm gonna lead with like, I don't want to bury the lead. I'm gonna lead with what bothers me the most, because I feel like I almost need to get this like mental block out of the way so that I can start to like go in on everything else. But like, I'm really fucking irritated by the fact that this is the delivery mechanism, which I talked a lot about in last year's review of all the memos that came out during the Chiefs season that were effectively useless. But like, it's like they do just enough in these things to like let you know that the capacity might exist to do the right thing, but they're too fucking lazy to do it. And that's why you just get these 1-page letters or memos or whatever. He calls them letters. It's like, because there's a line at the end, and I'm gonna break the whole thing down, but I've got some other stuff I'm gonna bring in for context as well. I got like some laying the keel stuff and instruction based stuff and policy based stuff, but it's like it simultaneously illustrates what I just said and how fucking blind they are to the level of incompetence that is rampant in the Chiefs mess. And it's weird because the whole thing is like, it's like they're speaking out both sides of their mouth. Like they're willfully and pretty brazenly contradicting themselves. And I say they because like he's not alone in crafting this message, I don't think, but I would say it's mostly him. They talk at the beginning of the letter. Like the first paragraph is just like hey, shout out to all the Chiefs that have been doing the damn thing for the last year. And mentions like some of the pseudo combat stuff that's happened with like the Houthi missiles and rockets and whatever the fuck's got. I'm not like super up on that. I think some ships got shot at. I know some people got some combat action ribbons, so they had to have, but there's some people that have been over there like intercepting all the Iran shit going into Israel and like the Houthi rebel things where they're like shooting at ships and then we're shooting back, I guess. But that's what they're talking about. But like, that's not relevant to what I'm here to talk about. So like, shout out to all you doing the damn thing. You're national treasures. God bless you. But we're going to move on to paragraph 2, right? So it leads with most important. I don't know how that's even fucking English. Cause like, how can it be most important? If it's the most important, there's only one of those. There can't be a most important quality, meaning there's more than one. It's fucking brain dead. But like, it says, while a most important quality of a great leader is self-awareness. agreed, even though English. It is critical that every chief can self-assess and self-correct. Knowing who you are as a person and as a leader enables you to willingly and continually assess your performance and that of your team and make the necessary changes to improve, blah, blah, blah. How? It never ceases to fucking amaze me how they put shit like this out. And it's like, how? At what fucking point were these people taught to be humble, self-aware leaders capable of self-assessment, identifying deficiencies, and self-correcting? When the fuck during the life cycle of professional development that happens in an enlisted person's life were they ever taught any of this shit? That's what, like, number one, my biggest fucking issue is we just continue to, like, offer up these fucking platitudes in memorandums or letters or fucking pamphlets or posters or catchphrases or stickers or t-shirts or what the fuck ever about all this shit that is supposed to be one of the competencies amongst the amorphous, most important quality section of our fucking core values that aren't written down. And we're supposed to just know this shit magically, like we're all one big chief fucking hive mind, and we can go into the archives and find the information on, like, how to be self-aware, how to self-assess, how to recognize deficiencies, and how to self-correct them, as if we're this perfect leadership development organism. Are you fucking paying attention at all? Look around. Read the fucking room. We are failing. And it's like an epidemic of fucking failure to do this. And it's not just like us failing to develop junior sailors, which I would argue is more important and also kind of the same thing. But as we're inducting people into what we do as chiefs, like how go look at all the stories. I've reviewed and directly talked to a lot of people that have relayed their horrific experiences with this process and how all they learned was that the mess doesn't give a fuck about them, that we eat our young, that we are like clueless, self-destructive, self-sabotaging, incompetent people at both leading and developing juniors and future leaders to replace us. Like, the fucking competence does not exist, but outside of the anomalous people here and there. But as institutionally, it's not real. Right? And I'm going to go in on all that here in a minute, but I wanted to contrast all that against a line at the end. And this is a short letter, right? But at the end, I'm going to go through the rest. But at the end, he says the goal, and I'm going to infer, he doesn't say this in the sentence. I'll read the whole sentence as a quote in a second. I'm going to infer that he means of the season because that's what the memos are about. That's the context of this entire discussion. So that, like, that's the only reason he's putting this memo out, but he doesn't explicitly say it. But I'm assuming he means the goal is for and I'm assuming it's the season. The goal is for our entire mess to ask the same questions. I don't love that because, like, I'd like for them to ask different questions, have similar conversations. Again, like, similarly productive mess to mess, I hope is what he meant. But, like, I don't want you all having the same conversations. That's fucking stupid. It's an enormous waste of manpower and man hours and is incredibly inefficient and just is literally the definition of an echo chamber. But I'm being charitable with my analysis of this sentence. And grow together. And then my favorite part, punctuating that point, my favorite part of this whole thing is it says, so, like, setting this last point up, all chief petty officers and CPO selectees are required to be present during these discussions. And he says, do not consider this as selectee training in quotes, but as a mess discussion. We must actively seek out areas where real change is needed and go get after it, right? That's how he ends it. Do not consider this a selectee training, but a mess discussion. Why does he say that? It's kind of a weird thing to be in there, right? But when I saw that, my brain lit up because that to me is a public admission that they recognize that the Chiefs season structure, like where we set it all up to create this in-group, out-group dynamic, this adversarial relationship between selectees and Chiefs throughout the entire fucking season, to the detriment of them learning much, if anything, except that they're not as valuable as genuine Chiefs, that model's fucking broken, that it doesn't work, that they don't want them in there standing at fucking parade rest with their backpacks and selecting name tags on, just getting, like, screamed at. I was going to use other language. That was what the pause was about. I decided against it because my mom listens to this. So, like, I just, it simultaneously made my heart flutter and sucked my soul out of my body to read that sentence, because it's like, you just let me see. You just let me peek behind the curtain. I know you get it. I know you understand this to be what it is, to be fundamentally broken, to need to be fixed based on the entirety of this memo, but especially that fucking line, man. You know, and you're in the only position of power that's relevant to making change in this area, right? Yeah, you'll need the CNO to co-sign some shit, but he will, she will rather, I guess, now. Sorry, I think it's Franchetti or something. Yeah, sorry, my bad. I got an old brain, it moves slow. I've been irradiated from the neck up. It's not my fault. But like she'll support it if it makes sense, right? She seems pretty chill. I don't know her. But like every fucking CNO that's ever existed is going to defer to the MCPON on this shit. Unless it's ridiculous. The only time the CNO is going to take the wheel is when it's on the cover of the Navy Times and they're sick of it and they're going to direct, but they're still going to it's still going to flow through the MCPON and all the leadership mess and all that shit. No matter what happens, like the CNO might direct them to fix something, might even direct them to shit can the season if it gets bad enough, but it'll all flow through that pathway, right? They're not going to dissolve the office of the MCPON and shit. So it's all going to be on his desk for approval, essentially. It's all his policy to make. Like, he's the guy. He's like, this is your shit. You own it. So it's like, when the fuck are you going to do something meaningful about that? Because this fucking letter shit ain't doing it. It's not meaningful. It's not. And it, honestly, it just fucking hurts my feelings because, you just demonstrated to me, you just articulated in those sentences that you understand what's wrong, but are apparently unwilling to fucking do anything about it. And if you think, all right, here, let's get into some context shit first. So I'm gonna and I'll try to overlay some of these in the video if you're watching on YouTube, but, I'm gonna go over to, laying the keel, right? Because I the other day, when the MCPON posted this, there was a comment that someone sent me about somebody relaying their very negative experience during the Chiefs season, and it had to do with the stuff I went pretty hard on last year about somebody electing not to participate, and which, in and of itself, I made the argument last year, and I won't go down that rabbit hole because you can go listen to those podcasts. But that, the process is or is not mandatory, right? It arguably is, because a CO is giving you a lawful order to participate in a mandatory training event, presumably, right? If they're co-signing on the season, it's like them putting training in the plan of the day. It's fucking mandatory. If you're the person that has to go to that training, it's mandatory. And if you don't show up, you're not at your appointed place of duty, blah, 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 right? And that's all UCMJ supported stuff. It doesn't have to be in an OPNAV instruction, right? That being said, this sailor in the comment that was relaying their story said they didn't want to play the reindeer games. So as a result, because apparently they presented this as optional, I guess, or they didn't go into enough context for me to know if the sailor just said no or if the command said, are you going to participate? Which I don't feel like commands usually do that. It's just kind of this tribal knowledge thing that gets passed around that it's elective. So this sailor said they weren't going to do it, and then they didn't allow the sailor to go through teaching the creed, and as a result, they didn't get pinned. And again, I have no way to validate the story. I haven't contacted the person yet, even though I plan to. But, you know, like, putting aside whether or not it's the veracity of it and everything, it's like, so with that idea in mind, I was going to reply to the comment and give them some direction on like, well, that's bullshit. File a grievance, do a BCNR, all this other stuff. But then I was like, wait a minute. I haven't been as plugged. I gotta take my medicine. I'm not as plugged into policy as I was when I was on active duty. I was an instruction wonk. I was all up in the MILPERS manual. I was reading every nav admin. I was that dude. Like, I was the guy you go to and ask obscure institutional expertise questions to. I'm not that guy anymore, partially because I just don't give a fuck unless it's relevant to like what's going on in the zeitgeist of like the Navy and the internet, and or like people are reaching out to me and asking me questions and stuff. I'll do my best, but like I'm not keeping up with that stuff anymore. Who the fuck wants to read nav admins? I was doing it because I needed to be the best chief I could be. I'm not that guy anymore, so like I'm just not willing to keep up with all that. And even if I tried, being an outsider, I'd probably fuck some stuff up. And I don't want to, just like I wanted to be informed while I was on active duty and I was immersed in it, and I was directly responsible for leading those sailors. It's like what I'm doing here now isn't the same thing. And I don't want to be responsible for simultaneously like not being immersed in it. Like it's going to open me up to all kinds of error, like just normal human error. And I don't want to let a sailor down by giving them the wrong information. So a lot of times when I get specific questions like that, I'm going to defer you to someone else unless I'm positive that I have that level of competence still, or can go look it up and I know that I'm not missing anything. But I'm really careful nowadays with stuff like that because I don't want to lead you astray, and I'm not that guy anymore, right? So I went digging through all of the chief season shit, right? I went through laying the keel, the enlisted leader development page on my Navy HR, the OpNav instruction 5351.2 Bravo is the most current revision as of April 2021. That's the Naval Enlisted Leader Development Continuum. This is the policy document that I'm aware of that is like, it's the only one that really exists. I mean, there's a DoD directive. There's as references to this instruction, DoD directive, Buper's instruction, Navy Leader Development Framework is the old one, and then some CNO message, a nav admin from 2019. But like, this is the Navy instruction on enlisted leadership development, right? This is the policy document that is signed out. Let me look at the from line. It's signed out by the CNO. So this is the policy document, right? If there were going to be changes to the chief season, or God forbid, any formalized policy on the chief season, it should be in this document. And then this document should subsequently be referenced in like the nav admin, probably the advancement manual, stuff like that. It's literally not mentioned in this document. Like, you go through the beginning of the document. The update was very heavily focused on the NLEC ELD stuff, replacing petty officer indoc and all that kind of shit. It goes through all the responsibilities at all the different echelon levels of who does what. And then when you get into the specific instruction, so you go through all that previously mentioned stuff, it gets to the continuum. It's got life skills training, which happens in initial session training. It's got all the NLEC ELD courses. It's got the facilitator courses. It's got SEA, Senior Enlisted Academy. It's got a Master Chief Petty Officer Leader Development course. I didn't even know that was real. There's a 5-day optional course for Master Chief Petty Officers that do not choose the CMC career path. That's cool. I didn't know that was real. So learn something new every day. So there's that. There's the CMC Cobb course, which is if you are on the CMC path, that's the course you have to go to at the Senior Enlisted Academy, in addition to the normal just Senior Enlisted Academy course, the one that they're trying to mandate to make Master Chief. So in addition, there's another course that if you're a CMC or Command Senior Chief, like my dude Damo, right? They all go through that course. I think it's 5 days. Does it say? No, 2 weeks. And then you got a symposium for senior leaders, executive leadership symposium, joint SEL course, maritime staff operators course, strategic communication workshop, and a strategic thinking course designed for flag officers and senior executive leaders. So why the fuck Oh, the MCPON fleets or combatant CMCs can request a quota. Okay. It's designed for flag officers and SES civilians, but like it's somehow, I guess they can request a quota. So there you go. And then there's a separate professional development section that's just got PME, JPME, some other, so the reading list. That's it. The Chiefs initiation season is not even fucking mentioned a single time in the enlisted leader development continuum. The fuck? How? That's gotta be intentional. How the fuck do we live in a world where the OpNav instruction that governs Navy enlisted leader development doesn't mention the fucking Chiefs season? But hang on, pause. So you go over to laying the keel. And this shit is a pamphlet, right? It's still the May 2019 publication, which I think is the original publication of it. It's signed out by Russ Smith. Technically, Honey's signature's on it, but he was a fleet at the time. For some reason, they had all the fleet sign it too. Don't ask me why. But this shit it's propaganda. It's a fucking pamphlet. It's all colorful and it's got pictures and these like slides with one-line quotes of fucking what we're doing and all this stuff, right? And like there might be a little goodness in here somewhere, but the enormous problem I have with it is, one, it's not a policy document. It's not. It's a fucking slideshow, like trying to illustrate our leadership continuum as being this robust life cycle developmental thing that we're super engaged in developing leaders. It's complete bullshit, but that's what they were attempting to do here, I have to think, just based on what I'm imbibing by fucking looking through. And if you haven't looked through this, go to just Google MCPON. The page that comes up will be the Navy.mil/leadership page. Go to MCPON Department exclusives. And it's got all the memos. It's got this. It's got like his charge and all this other bullshit. Any documents related to the season that the MCPON publishes usually will be on that page. And so the laying the keel one, you can access the slideshow with PDF thing there. You could probably just Google it too and find it, but I don't know if I like to get it from the source so I know it's the most up-to-date one, or it should be if they're doing their jobs and updating the websites. But so this says like laying the keel, developing the backbone of our Navy. And then it says formal courses set the foundation for career-long learning. Okay. Those weren't even real when this document was published. And NLIC ELD was still like a fucking on paper. I'm not sure exactly when it got rolled out. Well, maybe it got rolled out around the same time. I'd have to look it up. Sailor 360 is just not even fucking real. Like, it tries to claim it as this umbrella term for all the informal OJT that we do, as if that's fucking real. Like, sure, there are chiefs and just leaders generally wearing khakis or not, like the first classes and second classes out there that get it. It's like there are informal like mentoring that happens ad hoc as you go throughout the day. There is like the formal, like semi-formal sessions where you might sit down and work through some stuff with people and teach them those competencies. But like there are very few commands out there. And like I can't say I'm aware of any. If you're out there, hit me up, because I would really love to know what you guys are doing. But like, I'm not aware of a robust Sailor 360 program, like fucking anywhere. Like, I even tried to do it, and it's really difficult to stay consistent. Like, I tried to do it on one of my submarines, and I did, like, it was the CPO 365 phase 1 back in the day. I would do it a lot when we were in the OCAB on a 2-crew submarine, just meaning, like, the submarine's gone, and I'm in a fucking building, so I just have time to do stuff like that. And I'd go out of my way to try to do it as much as I could. I did it on the boat sometimes, too, but, like, I mean, it's really difficult to keep it up, especially underway, because I was standing a ton of watch and doing all the other shit that I always talk about, right? So, like, if there's somebody out there, and it's probably a shore command, but, like, I'll forgive you. But, like, it's opportunity. I get it. Like, I couldn't even fucking keep it regular on an operational unit. But, yeah, if you're doing it, hit me up. I'd be very interested to talk to you and kind of see how you're accomplishing it. And then it goes on, continuous coaching, mentoring, and advocacy. It's like they're trying to write a fucking eval. Like, you know how, like, when you write block 43 of an eval, it's like you can either write something nice, you can write something really nice, or you can write something that's barely true, but there's seeds of truth in there that just make you sound like first class Jesus or whoever's eval you're writing. Like, I'm just, most of the time I spent on evals like that, it's like the first class evals getting them ready for the Chiefs board. But so that's what this feels like to me, is like they were just like creating bullets that make it sound like something it's really fucking not. And I mean, Sailor 360 and the next bullet about continuous coaching, mentoring, and advocacy are effectively the same fucking thing. But then you move on and it gives you like a history with this pretty color-coded chart. And then we arrive at like the current laying the keel thing, right? And it tries to, even uses like this ship hull drawing to try to illustrate the blocks of training over a life cycle of a career. And it's just like, so like you look at it and it's like, they got DEP on here, like anybody's doing any meaningful development of any kind in DEP. NMT, like the NMTI stuff that happens in A school, again, like, remember one of your NMTI's names for me really quick. Okay. Do you remember anything else that happened during that time? The leadership development courses that exist now that are at least historically underutilized, I would venture to guess they're probably still underutilized, except for like we did that podcast with the CMC of NLEC, and it's like, he was telling us like the ones that are highly utilized are chiefs. They're taking care of themselves, but not their sailors. But somehow they're capable of self-assessing and self-correcting. Get the fuck out of here. Institutionally, individuals, don't get heated. If the shoe don't fit, don't wear it. And then it skips over, like it goes through the NLEC ELD stuff, and then you're at SEA, CMC Cobb, and all that other shit. So like, if the NLEC ELD stuff is still like super underutilized, and the Chiefs are just taking care of themselves, what the fuck are we writing that memo for, boss? Yeah. So fucking it, and it talks about self-study, Sailor 360, and on-the-job training. They hilariously, in their little illustration that they have on page 8, it illustrates those two as like the biggest pieces of it, because somebody had a Freudian slip. And then it gives all the NLEC ELD courses and like SEA and all that kind of shit. Yeah, the Sailor 360 stuff is an umbrella term for innovative, creative, command-developed leadership programs. If command-developed anything comes out of your fucking mouth at an institutional level, look in a mirror and slap yourself. Because, like, they don't have time for this shit. They don't have time or the resources or, in my analysis, the competence to develop this type of a fucking program. If you want this to happen, the institution should be developing a program and just handing it to them. Books, training aids, fucking IGs, slide decks, whatever the fuck you want, videos, books for them to read, podcast, whatever the fuck you want to do, however you want to accomplish this, you should be handing it to them. This should be something the War College develops. Maybe they disseminate it through the Navy Community College. But like, this should be something that was developed institutionally, that money was put into, that people with high levels of focus and competence on these things developed. Like, maybe it's accredited and they get college credit for it, like the Senior Enlist Academy, what the fuck ever. And that you should be giving it to them. This is Sailor 360. And it should just have modules broken up between that in your cute little graphic you're going to put in the update. It like interspersed between the NLEC ELD classes that they're not getting to go to, and you need to fix that too. But whatever. And it's not. It's like, oh, command developed leadership programs. Cool. Fucking show me one. Show me one that works. Address the competencies that you want. Because that's the thing too. It's like, these like vague memos aren't policy documents directing them to train on the following competencies. And again, like the most competent starting point is, all right, I guess I'll use all this fucking time and competence I don't have and develop this program at the command level. Where do I start? Okay, I'll print out the mission, vision, guiding principles because that's how we write our evals, and I'll build something off of that. But like, hopefully it doesn't suck. How is this like? We're not ad hocing refrigerant plant maintenance. So like, why the fuck are we allowing this to be a thing that we're just like, oh yeah, command develop programs, it's fine. And then the command already actively resists sending their sailors to the formally developed courses you're going to argue back with. And it's like, well, what the fuck, man? Like, because these aren't happening. And even if that was the case, it's like, this shit still shit. Like, do you not want to have any kind of agency in the things that are being taught? Like, you don't want to have any control over the things that are being taught to your future leadership in these command developed programs? Like, what the fuck are we doing? It's a self-licking ice cream cone, man. But yeah, and then it's just more graphics, more bullshit. They've got this compass thing about toughness, initiative, integrity, accountability, and then interspersed in that, it's all these other fucking buzzwords. And then they put all this other bullshit beneath it to try to explain the buzzwords. And it's like, cool, when are we teaching this shit to people? And again, don't point it in like ELD courses if you're not going to send people to them. Because that's what's happening. According to the people that run it, not according to me. Yeah, I'm not gonna burden you with going through the rest of this shit, but like, it's so bad. And then there's almost no there's no tools in this document. It's 20 pages of just propaganda, just like large font with a like obscured background overlaid image, and like it's a pamphlet trying to propagandize that we have robust leadership development and education in the Navy, and we fucking don't. And it's not like there's no argument that we do. There was some line, because there's a chief initiation guidance section in this, in the laying the keel document. And it talks about, there was one line that jumped out at me last night when I was reviewing it. And it like, I wanted to touch on that one last thing if I could. Okay, so like I think it was this one. So it said it's just like willful ignorance at this point, but it says chief petty officers are selfless leaders who are explicitly charged with making difficult decisions and providing unvarnished candor to leadership. Our chiefs must learn and practice building teams obsessed with winning, leading from the front with an appropriate balance of both confidence and humility that must be carefully grown throughout the remainder of a career. Our chief petty officers are our principal line leaders, shouldering greater responsibility and accountability than they could have possibly imagined. Our task is to draw that potential out of them, to show and give them confidence that they are indeed capable, worthy, and prepared for this step. When the fuck do we do that? And not even just the second part, like chief petty officers are selfless leaders who are explicitly charged, like the making difficult decision parts. Yeah, okay, cool. Providing unvarnished candor to leadership doesn't happen as often as it should, but it happens. Our chiefs must learn and practice building teams obsessed with winning. When do we teach them how to do that? Leading from the front. When do we teach them how to do that? With an appropriate balance of both confidence and humility. Like when the fuck was the last time you encountered a chief in your just general everyday going about your business that the first like word that pops into your head is humility? And I'm thinking about like a cultural avatar, like a Chiefs Mess cultural avatar in my head of like the mean, of just like, not the meme, the mean, like the average chief. When was the last time, like if that was what we were building, you wouldn't have to put that out in that way constantly. Like, we're humble servant leaders. The fuck we are. We should be pursuing that ideal. But like, come on, recognize it to be what it is. And I'm not saying that like the documents that are created to push us in the direction we need to go shouldn't have things like that in it. But that's not what this is. This isn't like guidance on how to do anything. It's just like, It's something they can pull out of their drawer to answer the question of what are you doing for robust leadership development and education? Oh, here you go. Check out our propaganda document. So like there's that, and there's nothing in here but the one last thing that was in here, and it's the only place I've been able to find it, and it kind of to call back to that social media post I was talking about. It has, where is it? Initiation planning section. There it is. So the second bullet in initiation planning, which how we fucking went back to calling it initiation, like holy red flag, but whatever. We are where we are. The second bullet ends with participation is mandatory. Now, of fucking course it's in this document and not, I don't know, the OpNav instruction that doesn't even mention the fucking Chiefs season. It says participation is mandatory. Now, this document hasn't been updated, so Russ Smith was the MCPON at the time who signed this out. Also, Russ Smith doesn't write naval instructions, which is why it's presented in this way. So, like, is this a lawful order from the MCPON? Is this fucking... what is this? Is that the thing we're going to use? Like, are they going to go after you and take you to mast for not participating in the mandatory training event? Like... yeah, what? Why? Why is it like this? This is the only place, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm open to, you directing me to other resources, but I've looked at everything that I know to be publicly available, and the only place it says the season is mandatory is in a pamphlet about laying the keel signed by a MCPON that's retired. Like, what am I supposed to make of that? It hasn't been updated since 2019. So, like, what the fuck are we doing? It's almost 2025. We're on the next MCPON who's more than halfway through his term, I think. So, like, or about halfway. And we still don't have, like... So, you could look at it says guidance. The header of the section is guidance. Not policy, not rules, not orders, and then initiation planning, not requirements. So you see what I'm like, how are you supposed to know? And then it mentions teaching of the creed right after that. Doesn't say anything about it being fucking, it says during initiation, CPOs will educate and develop. So there's, I guess, but again, it's not a policy document. Doesn't say it's mandatory. And then the desired outcome. And it's like there's a lot of suggestive words in this that are none of it's direction and none of it is policy because this isn't a fucking policy document. It's just like some fucking pamphlet, some informational fucking PDF file. Lots of cute pictures. So that kind of leads me back to this memo, right? I can't get there, man. I can't get to where you think, like, as he mentions, now with the release of Culture of Excellence 2.0, we'll expand our focus from connections to include culture. It's like, okay, when are you going to teach any of the people in enlisted leadership positions how to create and maintain a positive and productive culture? Could any of them even define that, really? Like, can the institution define it so they fucking know what you mean? I'll never understand why they think this is a good way of communicating these things. You're just publicly addressing a group of people and ostensibly directing them to do certain things that they're never taught how to do. And I'm not saying, like, when you say these self-awareness, self-assess, and self-correct, like, I've heard that my entire career. The problem I have with it isn't that I don't know what it means. It's that I don't know what the institution expects me to do or how the institution expects me to do it. Like, I know what self-awareness is, but I know what my understanding of that is and how I do that. I didn't get any of that from the Navy. I got that from my own tools, right? From my own research and development and just context and the way I was raised. And I didn't get that from the Navy. And so, like, I mean, some of the self-assessment and self-correction stuff I can say I got from submarines. The culture of submarining installed a lot of that, like the just obsession with like risk mitigation and self-assessing, collecting lessons learned. What can we get out of that? What's the root cause? How do we fix it? Like, that's just submarining, because that's what you have to do so that the ocean and the high pressure air and high pressure like steam and hydraulics and just all that shit doesn't kill you. Like, it's just submarining. It's the nature of the beast. But like, it's not an institutional value. And there's plenty of evidence of that. So it's just like, when are you going to educate people? And like, I've said over and over and over again, and that's why I had the NLIC ELD guys on the podcast, is like, I've said over and over again that the NLIC ELD stuff is a tremendous step in the right direction, but it's one step. And it's not being properly utilized. It's not being mandated. Like, we're not being forced through the eye of the needle so that we can grow as an organization. They're just like, it's there, we did it, but we're not going to hold anyone accountable for making sure that the people that need it most go, you know, like, and the self-serving people that, you know, are more concerned about their career than they are their junior sailors, which is one of the things that we're trying to prevent, like, and is constantly just like talked about over and over and over again in all these documents. And yet we have this like very vivid illustration of it not being the real sentiment that happens on a daily basis. It's not the practice, like, on an aggregate, like it's scalable. Like, you can demonstrate it over a large sample size with the people that are eligible and should be going through those NLIC ELD courses and yet aren't. And we have the resources to accommodate that, and they just aren't. And it's like, and what are we doing about it? Banana. That's what I fucked if I know. So, yeah, I just like, you're directing chiefs to focus on these things. You're recognizing a need to focus on these things and address the issues that they would fix by being able to, like, just being self-aware generally, and then being able to self-assess your own leadership performance. And then upon recognize those deficiencies, because you're self-aware and you've conducted that self-assessment, you're now going to self-correct. Like, who the fuck do you think these people are, man? You never taught them how to do this shit. A lot of these kids come in with barely a high school education, and then we have to teach them the rest. You can't not install these competencies in these people, and magical thinking is going to just get you there because you put out a memo and told them to be self-aware. So why aren't you being self-aware? The fuck? You skipped some steps. That's why. You have to teach them these things. How the fuck are they ever going to know otherwise? And it almost feels like these memos are like a symptom of the bigger problem of like the transitory nature of leadership in the military generally, of like, these people are only in their seats for 3 years, and the MCPON knows he's about to retire and go sit on the board of fucking Raytheon or some shit. So it's like, how much investment does he have in making real institutional change instead of just not rocking the boat and sailing off into the sunset? And I'm sure, challenged to their faces, everybody is going to be like, I fucking did this and that. No, how dare you? And all this other shit. And it's like, yeah, but Gen Pop would rather you go down in flames while showing all of us that you're trying to die on this hill than by quietly flying under the radar, releasing some memos to pretend you give a shit, and then retiring. And now here comes the next figurehead that's not going to do anything meaningful for us either. Yeah, it's gross. There's going to be subsequent letters, apparently. This whole introductory letter is like, there's not a lot in it outside of the self-awareness, assessment, and correction, but like, I shudder to think at the vapid nature of the incoming memos, because he's gonna like send one every 2 weeks like he did last year, presumably focused on cultural things, which I'm looking forward to. Probably gonna destroy him, but I hope I'm wrong. if you really want to learn about culture, go read the Culture Code immediately. It's on the reading list on the website. The author's name's Daniel something, I think, but it's behind me somewhere. I don't know. I'm not going to go get it. It's on the website. Just look up the Culture Code. Incredible book that will actually teach you how to build a winning culture in an organization. I sincerely doubt that the incoming memos from the MCPON are going to give you any insight. They're just going to tell you to make your culture good. Make good culture in like a 1-page memo. And it's like, okay, how? Oh, yeah, sorry, that didn't fit on 1 page. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But, like, yeah, like, there's no... Cause it's weird because there's all these Freudian slips in these fucking memos talking about, like focusing on the need for the self-awareness, self-assessment, and self-correction. That could just be a bumper sticker, or it could be a slip of, like, there is a recognition that these things are needed, but there's not a willingness to go as far as is needed to actually accomplish anything meaningful. And then it's like in paragraph 3, which is just kind of like a continuation on the self-awareness, self-assessment, self-correction stuff. It says the ability of all chiefs to honestly self-assess their performance is invaluable in the fight against, wait for it, counterfeit behavior and division within the mess. Can I get a definition, please? But also, just saying those words together in that context, counterfeit behavior and division within the mess, you're recognizing the quiet part out loud. You're saying that there's a lot of counterfeit behavior and divisiveness within the Chiefs mess. How about some memos on that? Wait, actually, fuck memos. How about some meaningful discussion and education on those? Like, you have to talk about this shit. You have to. That's why I do what I do. It's like, because no one else is fucking doing it. And it's like, if you're going to openly recognize that there's counterfeit behavior and divisiveness within the Chiefs mess, like divisive behavior, okay, let's address that. And if you're saying you're addressing it by saying we have to be self-aware, self-assess, self-correct, it's like, if they're behaving in a counterfeit way and they're creating division within the mess, what makes you think they're going to somehow become self-aware and they're going to self-assess and self-correct? Like, if one's true, the other can't be true. If there's counterfeit behavior and division happening, those things need to be corrected by some exterior entity in a position of authority holding them accountable. That's not self-awareness, self-correction, and like, fuck, come on, dude. One can't be true if the other is true too. I mean, they can be true at the same time in different places, but like, if you're looking at a occurrence of counterfeit behavior and division in the mess, those people aren't going to self-correct. They're just fucking not. Because they're willfully ignorant to their own deficiencies, which, if you're that, you can't be self-aware too. That's not real. All right. But yeah, and then it just goes in all the, like, more shit about, like, just more vague shit. Oh, gotta know what air quotes right looks like. And you gotta teach 2 teams, and she's supposed to be able to train, coach, and mentor them to self-assess, even though they don't know how to do it themselves. And we've never taught them as an organization, which is our responsibility. I don't know. I think I'm done. I could shit on this all day, but, like, I'm not here to dunk on it. I'm just here to be like, what the fuck are we doing with this? Like, just don't. It'd be more productive. Just fucking don't. Just skip the memos, dude. Just don't do it. Publish a little fucking graphic on your webpage no one goes to and say your priorities or some shit, and then just don't. Just be disengaged fully. Spare us. Because this bullshit isn't helping anyone. No one's going to think you're a better MCPON. It's not going to make your legacy better. It's useless. It's just like you're going out of your way to admit publicly that you don't give enough of a fuck to do anything meaningful for these people. And it's like, why? Why can't we get something meaningful done? You could have been the guy that fixed the Chiefs season. You could have been that dude that future generations of Chiefs for time immemorial were throwing rose petals at your fucking feet. And I don't know if that's why you do it or if you care about that kind of shit, like legacy and all that, but like, I can't imagine you don't if you're trying to propagandize us into thinking that you're doing something. But it's like, and I mean, I'll go all the way to the edge and look over with you. If you want to say like, oh, like it takes like 5-10 years to get this shit done. So like, you're not going to see the fruits of my labor until 10 years from now, because that's just how slow these things move and how long it takes to get things approved and get funding and build facilities and infrastructure and detail people there. Okay, I'll go with you. I'll hold your hand and go on that walk, man. Like, cool. Tell me that. Show me that. Show me that you're doing any of those things. Talk about it in your fucking memos. Something, dude. Like, what are you going to do to actually make these things happen? Oh, you're just delegating it via a fucking memo that doesn't actually say anything to the people that don't know how to do it and that you've never trained or qualified to do any of the things they're responsible for doing and that have demonstrated over a really long period of time and through countless fucking data points that they don't know and are not capable of doing that. And it's like, go talk to some of your new chiefs and fucking get some of their stories. Like, I'll set you up on calls with people that'll tell you just how broken this fucking system is. And they're not anomalous. They're not. Because I've seen it every fucking year that I was doing this shit. I was a chief for over a decade. I was responsible for training chiefs for 10 of the 11 seasons that I was wearing khakis. Because they just wouldn't let me for the first one because I was new here. And it's like every fucking year, multiple examples of how the dysfunction, the scar tissue it creates, and it's not the adversity shit that you all like to talk about as, you know, we're doing it to create like that trauma bond of the Chiefs season and like really drive those lessons home. It's like, no, you're just so fucking dysfunctional that you're creating real scar tissue on people for no fucking reason. Because they don't leave there with all this new leadership competence. They just leave with the scar tissue and way less trust than they ever thought possible for the Chiefs mess. And a lot of people, because of this culture existing for as long as it has and doing the things that it does every year during the Chiefs season, it's like, just all year, fucking every day, has, like, people are entering the Chiefs mess with way less trust as a starting point than they ever have historically, because it's so much more well known and because social media exists and the internet exists, Reddit exists for all these discussions to happen and for these stories to be shared. And it's like, there's just no fucking hiding it anymore. You can't hide behind these bullshit fucking memos and propaganda pamphlets and all this other bullshit. Because we all know the emperor's got no fucking clothes, man. So at some point, you either need to just accept that you're failing and you're cool with that, or fucking fix it. I'm going to end there. I'll be back for 3 more memos probably, but like, it's really depressing that they're doing this again. I thought that was like for his term. I thought that was like his guidance for the term of his MCPON-ness, but we weren't that lucky, kids. There's going to be a bunch more pointless memos inbound. I'm happy to critique them. Little cathartic, if nothing else. I don't know how much value it adds other than I just feel like somebody's got to call this shit out. Like somebody's got to point at it and call it what it is. And most people in uniform don't have the freedom to do it the way that I'm doing it. I've seen a lot of content creators recently getting targeted, and I mean targeted by their chains of command or their fucking big Navy or whatever that means to you in that situation. But they're going after people. And I've seen this as a trend, and I'm lucky that it never happened to me while I was on active duty. But I don't have that concern now. I can say whatever I want. So it's like, I feel the need to continue to point these things out and call them what they are because you can't. But there's a part of me that, like, I seen it and I was like, God, I don't want to talk about this shit again, man. But there's, like, I just feel the responsibility to do it for that reason. So if you're burnt out on this shit, like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm a little burnt out on it too. But all the things you're saying in the smoke pit or behind the closed door of the Chiefs mess or to your wife or whatever the fuck to the homies, like, I know you can't say it to the people you want to say it to. And I felt that when I was still in it. So that's why I felt like I should. But I'm always open to feedback. You know that. Hit us up. Don't Grow Up the Shit Podcast at gmail.com. You can Facebook message us. Don't Grow Up the Shit Podcast. Or you can DM us on Instagram, Reddit, or Discord. Almost said DGUTS again. That didn't make any sense. Glitch. Discord at dgutspodcast. Or you can go to dgutspodcast.com if you want to support us. There's a donate button in the upper right hand corner of the website. You can go to the shop button on that same website, or you can go to dgutspapparel.com, get yourself some naval pride and heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. And finally, you can go to Jesus, I'm glitching at the end of this podcast. I don't know what's happening. You can go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast. Pick one of the 5 tiers to become a member today. $5 a month is the cheapest tier. You won't even notice it's gone, but it's a tremendous help to us if you're able and willing to do that. Please consider it. There's a bunch of cool benefits too. But that's another great way. So patreon.com/dgutspodcast. And if you can't afford to spend any money, that's fine. Like, share, subscribe, review on all the platforms for all the things. Like tag your friends, follow us on social media, share it, review us on fucking iTunes, subscribe on YouTube. It's always, if you can consume the podcast on YouTube, that helps because we got to get up a little bit more to get the channel monetized, and that'll just be another little trickle of money from the ads and stuff on YouTube to help us expand the platform and pay for all the things. I don't take a paycheck from this shit. Someday it would be cool too, but like as of right now, and I'll tell you when it changes, every dime just goes back into the podcast. Just bought a new camera for the podcast the other day, so I'm hoping, because there's been some focus issues that I've had pointed out to me. So I'm going to transition to the new camera. I'm finally doing what Damo told me to do in the first place. I got a new 4K like Sony Handycam style camera I'm going to use for this camera, and then the camera I'm currently using, I'm going to have an arm that kind of comes over and use it to display certain content. So like I've got this book I got recently on naval leadership. It's an old NavPers thing they published on leadership that I'll do a podcast on and just go through all the stuff. It's called Principles and Problems of Naval Leadership, but that way I'll be able to like have a camera view of the book itself as I'm going through some of it. So that'll be a cool solo episode that if you go watch it on YouTube, you'll see me talking, but then you'll have either a split screen or an overlay of the book itself and me pointing out the things and stuff like that, showing some of the illustrations. I'm going to do some heritage stuff on some of that. I got a couple of new covers a la this style of the early 1800s Chiefs cover that are over here now. You can't really see them. They're like up here. But do some like heritage episodes where I can like pull it out of the case and show you like all the things. Like I got a lot of stuff like that I would really love to share through like heritage episodes. I might just make a new series called like Show and Tell or something, but like it'll be cool. So like all that is to say that that's the kind of stuff that happens when you support the podcast. Is I can do more shit. I can install more capability and bring you more, like the value comes back to you in those kinds of ways. So if you can support us in any way, shape, or form, even if it's just the free stuff to help get more exposure and just get the podcast to the people that need it, that's all helpful. And those are demonstrations of the ways that does help. I'm sitting in a chair that is like you all helping because my chair broke, and I got to use the podcast funds to get me a new chair to sit in while I do the damn thing. So stuff like that it's really, really helpful. And I don't have to come out of pocket, which is really nice because then I can use that money for my actual life, bills and shit. And yeah, that's it. That's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship. Hey, shout out to all our level 5 patrons, Victoria Livingood, William McIver, and Mark Galagos. To all our other patrons, we really appreciate your support. Helps to pay all the bills, expand the platform, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button, drop a comment down below on what you thought, and subscribe to the channel.